all. Welcome to today's episode of Juicing the Numbers, your statistics in sports podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Tracy.
And I'm Corwin and
And coming at you on Wednesday. You're listening to this on Thursday, but it's Wednesday, February 3rd, quarter after 7 o'clock in night. And we're gearing up for the Super Bowl happening this Sunday. So we're going to talk about a little bit of the matchup between the two teams, as well as a recap, finally, of the championship games from a couple weeks ago. We were missing Corwin to have that discussion last Sunday. Corwin has braved on and is now here via his cell phone. So if there's a difference in audio quality that you notice, you're not thinking things, you're not crazy. Corwin's off the phone today. And we'll also be talking...
not based off of that.
Right. It's not going to be the deciding factor. And we'll also be talking about the Nolan Arenado trade, as well as a few other sparse topics if we have the time. So, Corwin, you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, then let's start with the upcoming, or I guess a recap of the championship games, and then a look forward to this weekend's matchup, this weekend's Super Bowl matchup. So first, let's start in the NFC. The Buccaneers played the Packers, and this is all going to be old news now, but we finally get the chance to talk about it, so fucking deal with it. The Packers dropped the championship game, as seems to be the running history of the Packers. 26-31, Bucs winning this one. In terms of quarterback play, Tom Brady went 20 for 36, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, a sack for a quarterback rating of 73.8. Aaron Rodgers went 33 for 48, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 5 sacks. Good for a quarterback rating of 101.6. Corbin, what did you think about this game?
Boy, that is a game that I remember vividly. Do you believe me?
No.
It feels like it was a year ago now. I'm disappointed with the outcome. I, of course, wanted to see the Packers go to the Super Bowl, wanted to see Aaron Rodgers have a chance to go win it again. And, of course, we're all sick and tired of Tom Brady being there. You know that as much as I do. But, man, the Bucs defense is seriously legit. I mean, I know we've been talking about that for a while now. It was something that we talked about to start the season. It was an up-and-coming unit that dominated last year that people didn't really notice. And now we're looking at it and saying, oh, they shut down the Packers. They've shut down most teams, they've come across this year. Can they stop the Chiefs now? And we'll see, obviously, this Sunday, and you'll hear from us in the grand scheme of things shortly as the season's practically at an end. But, man, it just goes back to, honestly, how poorly I think the Packers drafted this year. They trade up to take Jordan Love in the first round. They take, not AJ, but Dylan out of Boston College with, I want to say, a second or a third round pick, basically their second pick. And both of those guys are second, third stringers. They're not impact positions that the Packers needed. And, you've kind of seen that even when Devontae Adams isn't shut down, because it's hard to shut that man down, the limited number of weapons negatively affects the Packers. They have holes at different areas on their roster that could have been fulfilled with those draft picks. And I think, for a team that is looking to compete, and we're one of the few favorites to go to and win the Super Bowl, especially out of the NFC, you kind of would hope that they addressed some of their shortfalls, and they didn't. And now we're kind of sitting here looking and having to ask, what if? Obviously we won't be able to know what the outcome would have been if they went elsewhere in the draft, but it can't be any worse than where they are now, which is sitting at home. So, yeah.
This is one of the oddest games from the Packers side that I could think of because their offense seemed like they were either unstoppable or going to go 3-and-out. No in between. There was a series of bizarre coaching decisions down the stretch. Matt LaFleur deciding to not go for it on 4th and goal and instead take a field goal when they were. How much were they down by when that actually happened? Hold on. Because it was
for that to be effective.
Yeah, let me find it here. I got the play by play. Yeah, so they. Oh man, I don't know how to read this shit at all. This is so weird looking. What the fuck? What does this mean? Oh, it was 4th and 8. That's what that means. Okay. And then those are the yardages. Wow, this is sorry, folks. But I never usually look at the NFL play-by-play because we never have a reason to, and it looks vastly different from the way that the MLB one does. Yeah, so it was a 26-yard field goal. It was 4th and 8 from the Tampa Bay 8, and that field goal. Let me scroll up to the top. Was the final score that they made. So that means that they were down 23-31. Like they needed a touchdown either way, and they put the ball back in the hands of Tom Brady with 2 minutes left in the game and thought that would work out for them. I just am confounded by they took the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. And while Aaron Rodgers, I don't think had a great game by Aaron Rodgers standards, he still had a great game by average quarterback standards. A 101 passer rating against what is a very stout defense with the Buccaneers is really fucking good. Again, I know they had they didn't capitalize on any of the interceptions that they had, which was mind-blowingly frustrating. But still to force yourself to have to make that kind of comeback and then not even getting the chance to because no shit. I don't know how Matt LaFleur already apologized. I don't know how you stomach that as a Packers fan. That was hard for me to stomach as a neutral observer. That was frustrating. That was beyond frustrating.
I don't even know necessarily if that's something that you do stomach or if that's just something you say, man, that is crippling. That is season ending. There's no excuse. Time to drink heavily and move on.
I don't even know. They couldn't get the run game going all game. Devontae Adams, like you said, was shut out, I guess, as much as you can shut the men out. Although Marquise Valdez-Scantling had a great game with over 100 receiving yards. On the other side of the ball, Chris Godwin had a wonderful game. It was kind of like Godwin and Evans had similar games to Valdez-Scantling and Adams. It was interesting. Both wide receiver ones coming in half the yardage of their I guess wide receiver 2 counterparts. Anyway, yeah, this was a just a frustrating fucking game. And it's one of those things where Green Bay ended up winning the battle of time of possession, which Corwin and I have often discussed. Is it a meaningful stat or not? Because on the one hand, it shows some level of prowess that you're able to hold on to the ball for that long. You're not getting 3-and-outed, so to speak. However, that doesn't necessarily mean just because you held onto the ball for a long time that you scored a lot. And Green Bay had a near 10-minute advantage in time of possession. And I mean, they weren't even particularly close to winning this game almost at any point. I mean, they played from behind, I think, the whole game. And, you look at that time of possession, and at some point, that metric goes from being, oh, they did a great job holding onto the ball and not giving the other team a chance, to instead, they took way too fucking long to score, and it cost them points on the board. or they didn't score at all and just wasted the time for themselves in the back end.
You know, it's not the easiest thing to have these conversations post fact. You know, hindsight's always going to be 2020. We're always going to be able to sit here and after seeing the outcome and see how everything played out, how different choices would have affected it. And that's why you kind of need to focus on process versus results. In this case, I just, the process preached that you go one way with it and the Packers went the other way. And, it's not easy for us to sit here and say how things would have gone differently. It's the same as with the draft. The same goes with this game. You can't say one choice would have made the difference in the game, but the choice of going for it in the situation they were in, 4th and 8 on the goal, goal to goal situation, that screams go for it. You got to go for it. You can't put yourself in a losing situation and just pray that you happen to get X number of possessions left with X amount of time left to give you a chance to win the game. So that's why we have these discussions. That's why Twitter blows up every time it happens. It's, it's avoidable. These situations are avoidable.
Well, hats off to Todd Bowles, doing a great job. Love to see him succeed. Fucking love Todd Bowles. I was upset that his tenure with the Jets didn't work out because he seems like a great dude. So I'm really happy he's getting good success with Tampa Bay. Happy for Bruce Arians. We're going to be rooting very hard for the Chiefs, but I'm happy for the team. I guess let's bring that over to. Oh, also, actually, one other point. Because it really bothered me seeing it on Twitter a lot the next day about. And this is not meant to be necessarily a knock against Tom Brady, but Tom Brady did not win them this game.
No, of course not.
Tom Brady put them in almost in every possible scenario to lose this game, and then the Bucs defense bailed them out. I mean, this wasn't a bad game by Tom Brady necessarily. 3 interceptions is really fucking ugly, but outside of that, he played like Tom Brady with a bunch of gorgeous fucking throws, and managing the game perfectly. But if the Bucs had lost this game, it would have been likely on the back of one of those interceptions. And Tom Brady's performance here left so much, but it was crazy because everyone's like, oh man, he keeps doing it. And it's like, over the course of the regular season, yeah, that's Tom Brady. This game? Fucking no way, man. That's Todd Bowles. That's my hot take anyway.
I really hate how well Todd Bowles has done both pre and post Jeff's tenure, because he is, he's shown to be an excellent coach, excellent coordinator at the very least. I hate to say that I really wish I could see how he performed with other teams that weren't the Jets. Maybe things could have ended differently for him, but again, we'll never know. Hindsight's 2020, but I think he's the kind of guy who will have another chance before long.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope he's treated as the opposite of Adam Gase, where Gase's problems in Miami were overlooked because the Dolphins were bad and people thought that it was a Dolphins problem and not an Adam Gase problem. I think Todd Bowles, it's the exact other way around. I think his problems with the Jets were Jets problems and not Todd Bowles problems. I mean, yeah. So I hope he gets another job and that people don't hold the Jets stint too hard against hard again. I mean, fuck if. Go ahead.
Honestly, with the way he's running that unit, it won't be long because he's absolutely killing it, and I think that's pretty clear to see.
Yeah, and it's so nice. I'm a fan, Todd. Let's see if there's anything fun with the advanced passing stats. We have been doing this a lot recently. Nothing crazy, nothing you wouldn't expect from the game. Tom Brady's bad throw percent was 28.6. That's pretty high. Aaron Rodgers's was 17.4. Whatever. Um, Intended air yards per pass attempt, Brady was 11.6. Rodgers was 7.0. So they really didn't want to test the Buck secondary deep, which is weird because I was thinking that they would, since the game plan for the Saints against the Bucks was to also not pass very deep. And I believe one of my comments after the divisional round was, let's see how the Bucks do against deeper passing, and it seems as though they did not do that, which is interesting. But oh well. And the Packers won the yards after completion game, but honestly, who gives a shit about that when you're like they won the yards after the catch by 0.2 yards per completion. And it's like, who
Game
gives a shit
changer.
about that when you are losing the completed air yards per pass completion by 3.8 yards? Like,
You know what? Like, I'm very excited to see how the game goes Sunday because, believe it or not, the Chiefs are really good at throwing the ball deep. So
yeah.
we'll get a nice little strength versus strength matchup.
And let's talk about it. So the Bills-Chiefs game was a wild one in which the Chiefs ended up coming out on top 38-24, squashing Buffalo's Super Bowl hopes, a team that has been there 4 consecutive times and has yet to win it, and has not been there since their last consecutive appearance back in 94. That doesn't feel right. Maybe 93? One of those two. I don't think I was born yet. Uh,
What?
Anyway,
I'm honestly lost the jumping off point of this, so I don't know what team you're talking about.
the Bills' last Super Bowl appearance.
Oh,
Yeah.
my guess would be 94.
Yeah, I forget if it's one of those deals where it's like the 93 season, but the 94 calendar year. Yeah, I don't know. And also, it doesn't matter. So, moving right along.
1991, 1992, 1993, and 1994.
Yeah, I have them as 90, 91, 92, 93. So, calendar year was probably 94. Again,
God, it's so dumb.
yeah. It's the most frustrating thing in the world when talking about football, basketball, and hockey, but not
Anything
baseball,
but
my
baseball.
friends. That's right. Josh Allen went 28 for 48, 287 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 4 sacks for a quarterback rating of 80.8. Pat Mahomes, our good pal Pat, 29 for 38. That's right. We know him well. 29 for 38, 325 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 1 sack. Good for a 127.6 quarterback rating. They had two 100-yard receivers in this game. Tyreek Hill, 172 yards receiving, and Travis Kelce, 118 yards receiving. No one had over 100 yards receiving for the Bills. Wow, the Bills didn't have a 100-yard receiver, nor do they have a rusher that went more than 20 yards, whose name is not Josh Allen. That's interesting. Anyway, Corwin, tell me your impression of this game.
That offense is tough to stop. Oh my God. I like having Travis Kelce, who is a absolute unicorn at tight end, could easily go down as the greatest to ever play if he can continue this up through, his prime and, doesn't fall off a cliff or get sucked into the injury volcano a la Rob Gronkowski, although Rob dealt with that his entire career, and Travis never has come close to that kind of consistency. Having a guy like that matched up with Tyreek Hill, who is a defense breaker, I just do not know how you can game plan around a team with so much speed and so many different ways to beat you. I know there's teams like the Chargers who've come in and just applied a ton of pressure while still maintaining good coverage, and it has made it work. but at the end of the day, it's an easier task than just being said. The Bucks defense, I will say, is built to go up against the Chiefs, and I think they match up well. I just don't know if they're necessarily up for the task because I don't know if there's any defense that could be.
Oh man,
You just watch the Chiefs offense, and throughout this game, like the Bills have a very good defense, and they really couldn't stop them. There's not much they could do.
no, and this game is deceivingly close because you take away that muff punt, and I know we give these caveats all the time. You can't just take points off the board, but for fun, you take away that muffed punt in the beginning. You wipe away that crazy bullshit touchdown. All of a sudden, this game goes from being 24-38 to being 17-38. I mean, it wasn't close at all. And I mean to say that the Chiefs' defense was phenomenal against what has been anyway, a really dynamic Buffalo offense over the course of this season. They let up a decent chunk of rushing yards to Josh Allen himself, 88 rushing yards. But to the next three highest rushers after that, Devin Singletary with 17, TJ Yeldon with 15, and Isaiah McKenzie with 9. And then the receivers, Cole Beasley was their lead receiver with 88 receiving yards. Stephon Diggs got held to 77. And then the top two guys after that was Dawson Knox at 42 and TJ Yeldon with 41. I mean, this is a really stellar performance against a team that had been able to do so much with in the air, on the ground, and with the quarterback's legs, that having the Chiefs defense be so dynamic, in addition to their offense being exactly what you'd want to see out of the Kansas City Chiefs offense. I mean, God, the fucking Bucks are in for a world of trouble here.
Honestly, I forgot TJ Yeldon played in the NFL until he had that one catch over the middle. I always knew he was around. It's just one of those players where it's like, wow, I used to think about him often, and I haven't heard his name in like 2 years. But yes, you are 100% right. The Bucks will have their hands full on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, like for just some fun, stats that may exist, but I'm not sure mean too much. The Bills missed a combined 9 tackles for this game, this championship game. 9 missed tackles in the game. The Chiefs missed 6.
Mm.
The Bills had 5 players allow an over 100 quarterback rating. The Chiefs had they had 4. Interesting. Anyway, Taron Johnson allowing 25 yards per completion. Oof.
But he had one really great play that 1 week.
Oof. But he didn't miss any tackles.
Oh, yeah, so made up for it. Best defensive MVP.
Oh, man, that hurts. That really hurts. All right, so hold on. Let me ask you this. What is worse, allowing 4 catches on 8 targets for a 50% completion rate and allowing 25 yards per completion, but no touchdowns, or allowing 2 catches on 2 targets, so 100%, for only 9 yards, 4.5 yards per completion, but a touchdown? Which is the worst performance?
If we're just talking about singular game, it's tough because it comes down to results versus I just used the word earlier. Results versus process.
Reward.
Thank you. Corwin's brain kicks into overdrive and finds the answer. Obviously playing the position giving up 100% of your passes, I'll bite for 9 yards isn't good. The only reason it probably was that low is because one of them was in the end zone, and they can't really do much to you, burning you yards after catch, things like that, once they've already scored. So I'll say that is the worst performance, but that's not saying anything positive for giving up 25 yards a catch.
This is very fair. Wow, the Chiefs only punted once. That's crazy.
Hard to beat the Chiefs when you only let them punt once.
Wow, yeah. I mean, the Bills, to their credit, only punted 3 times, but only punting once. My God, that is, unfucking real. Unfucking real. Let's see if there's anything fun in advanced passing today. Who do you think had a higher intended air yards per pass attempt, Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes?
Josh Allen.
Yes, Josh Allen intended, I should say, 7.1 yards per pass attempt. Patrick Mahomes only 5.5. So Josh Allen, at the end of it, had intended 342 air yards in this game. Pat Mahomes only intended 208. And then in terms of completed air yards, Josh Allen actually completed 155 of them, whereas Pat Mahomes completed 140 of them. So the difference between Josh Allen's intended air yards and his completed air yards per completion is 1.6 yards. For Pat Mahomes, that difference is 0.7. And Pat Mahomes also wins the game of yards after completion. His receivers picking him up good for 6.4 yards after completion per completion versus Josh Allen's 4.7. Ooh, man. He also had a third of Josh Allen's bad throws, 3 to 8. Although Josh Allen was pressured 22.8% of the time versus Pat Mahomes 7.7.
Fair difference.
Yeah, wow. Wow.
Pressure probably going to be the deciding factor in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Can they pressure Pat Mahomes enough to slow him down? Can they pressure Tom Brady and force him to make mistakes?
Okay, hold on. This is kind of insane. How many times did Josh Allen scramble? As a guess.
How many, did it say how many dropbacks he had or how many pass attempts?
Pass attempts, he had 48.
I'll say 30.
30 scrambles?
Yeah, I don't know.
5.
Okay.
You scrambled 30 times?
Yeah, it's a wild game. Who would have thought?
How many times do you think Pat Mahomes scrambled?
I'll go 6.
0.
Wow. I was closer, though. I'm getting better.
How many times do you think Tom Brady scrambled?
0.
0. How many times do you think Aaron Rodgers scrambled?
8.
0.
What?
Yeah, this was. I didn't even think about this.
I need them to define what they have a scramble listed as, because I don't believe that for what I'm thinking of in my head.
Right? Because that means that this weekend, this championship weekend, was the most in the pocket weekend I could possibly imagine, with 4 quarterbacks scrambling a combined 5 times, all of which coming from one of the dudes. I know Aaron Rodgers had a rushing touchdown this week, so maybe their definition of scramble is literally just throwing the ball from out of the pocket. I don't know though. That's fucking wild.
Yeah, not only do I not like it, I don't agree with it.
Yeah, man, I straight up don't know how to account for that because it feels wrong. Anyway, I guess let's go to the looking forward to fuck my goddamn it. Let's look forward to the fucking Super Bowl between the winners of these championship teams. It's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this will be the first time on record, which I actually found surprising, that one of the two teams is playing in their home stadium. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers will kind of be the de facto home team, as this game will be played in Tampa Bay. Which I am surprised about only because I would have assumed with the number of games played in the various iterations of where the Dolphins play down in Florida, that being such a popular spot for the Super Bowl, especially in the early years, and how good the Dolphins were back in the day, that they would have done that already, but I guess not. So this is a first.
It's one of those things where I want to almost have an asterisk next to it because this wasn't the intended location for the Super Bowl leading up to the season until things went crazy. But it is really cool to see. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. I am devastated that there won't be fans in attendance.
There will be fans in attendance, Corwin.
Well, all right, but 22,000 fans, not a full stadium.
Right. Just those pesky nurses and doctors.
Yeah, are they even really football fans?
Name me 9 quarterbacks.
Intellectual and also like football.
Yeah, that's illegal, especially if you're a woman. Shout outs to my women in sports. It's been a rough few weeks. We're sorry. We're happy you're here. Please don't leave. Seriously, we need you. Anyway.
Please don't let us just be a cesspool of dudes, because sport takes are not going to get better.
No, we will only have more Barstool Sportses.
Oh, God. Barstool Sports and 600 Colin Cowherds.
Yeah. Also, by the way, I do have the glossary definition of scramble per Pro Football Reference. It is rushes on plays designed as passes. So there's definitely some room for subjectivity in there.
So in my mind, a scramble is rushing out of the pocket. Like, I get by textbook definition, a scramble is a rush by the quarterback when you're looking to throw, sure. Scrambling out of the pocket, in my mind, still counts as a scramble.
Yeah, I would like to see that broken out between, like, scrambles resulting in rushes versus scrambles resulting in throws out of the pocket. Or maybe just like a throw outside of pocket stat.
Right, like broken protection, forcing them out of the pocket.
Because pressure isn't even the same. You can, unless, is that how they count pressures then? Are pressures throws out of the pocket for them? No, it's a combination of hurries, hits, and times sacked. So that's not really the same either. Yeah. Yeah, whatever. All right, so the Chiefs against the Bucks. The Bucks, since this is technically a home game, are 5-3 at home this season. Slightly better on the road as they finished their road record 6-2. The Chiefs, however, were perfect on the road this year, finishing 8-0. In terms of points scored per game, Kansas City ranked this season 6th with 29.6. Tampa Bay ranked 3rd with 30.8. Points allowed per game, Tampa Bay ranked 10th with 22.6. And, Kansas City ranked 10th with 22.6. Tampa Bay ranked 8th with 22.2. The takeaway differential, Kansas City was 8th in the league with a +6 takeaway differential. Tampa Bay was 6th in the league with a +8 takeaway differential. Passing yards per game, Kansas City was 1st with 303 per game, and Tampa Bay was 2nd with 289 per game. Rushing yards per game, Kansas City was 16th with 112. Tampa Bay was 28th with 94. Defensive passing yards per game, this is allowed. Chiefs ranked 14th with 236 allowed per game. The Buccaneers ranked 21st with 246 allowed per game. And defensive rushing yards allowed per game, Kansas City ranked 21st with 122 allowed per game. And Tampa Bay ranked 1st with only 80 allowed per game. So this is a crazy tight matchup between these two teams based on their regular season performances.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I don't know how you can I don't want to break this game down by the numbers because at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to matter all that much. I think, there's some Super Bowls where there's such clear distinctions between what teams do well and what teams fall behind on. And it's clear to make those distinctions about how if this game is going to go this way, this is how it's going to happen. With this, with these two teams, both teams are just so proficient on both sides of the ball. It's really just going to come down to make or break plays and minimizing mistakes, and whether or not Tom Brady's just black magic voodoo fuckery in the Super Bowl in the postseason is going to be enough to overcome the fact that Patrick Mahomes is made in a lab and not an actual human being. So as much as we talk statistics on this podcast and we pride ourselves in looking at the numbers and breaking these down, this is one of those times where I'm just sitting here thinking I do not know how we can look at these numbers and decipher anything.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to. I think this game is going to be very easy to fall into old tropes with because, for one, it's football, and it's just always easier to do that. And for another thing, because of the characteristics of the people involved in this, it's going to be Kansas City is going to win based on the back of Pat Mahomes doing what he's been doing the past 3 consecutive seasons. Tampa Bay will win, I think, as long as Tom Brady doesn't get in the way. Because if Tom Brady gives you the performance he gave last week against the Chiefs this week, yeah, they lose in a fucking heartbeat. I mean, 3 interceptions, 3 additional chances for Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, and the Kansas City offense to have the ball. You're not coming back from that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Tom Brady will lose them this game or win them this game because I don't know. But he's definitely shown his age more in the playoffs, which makes sense. Breeze did too. The whole idea is that you get more tired the farther into the season you get, and if you're in the playoffs, you have played more games. That's why there's a bye week between the championship weekend and the Super Bowl. I don't know, man. I also wouldn't have predicted Tom Brady to throw for over 500 yards in that Super Bowl against the Eagles that he lost. So I've got no fucking clue. We're not going to be able to know. Do you have a gut feeling on winner and score?
Yes, I think the Chiefs win. I'll say 35-24. 27. I'll say 27.
Chiefs. All right, I will also pick the Chiefs. I say the Chiefs win 42-35.
Okay.
Nice and big.
I'm all about it.
Bigger is better, baby. Bigger is better.
We don't hear that said often. Wait.
Never at all.
Wait, I don't know if that works, so I'm just gonna. Okay. Yep. Where are we going now, Josh?
So it's kind of it. This is our marquee moment for the NFL season. After that, we'll be talking just a lot of off-season bullshit and nonsense. So get ready for that starting next fucking Sunday. But it could lead to some exciting talk as we have with the MLB. Nolan Arenado, the star third baseman for the Colorado Rockies, has been dealt. He is being sent to St. Louis. In what is one of the most confounding, frustrating, and bullshit moves of the whole offseason, in a way that I am so shocked the league is actually letting this happen. Because it's so anti-competitive. So the Colorado Rockies are sending away third baseman Nolan Arenado and $51 million of Arenado's contract in exchange for left-handed pitcher Austin Gomber, infielder Mateo Gil, infielder Elahuris Montero, right-handed pitcher Tony Losi, and right-handed pitcher Jake Summers. So just 5 minor league dudes. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're like slapdick prospects because I don't know who the fuck they are. But because, maybe they're actually good. I have no fucking clue. But wow. So, oh God. Oh God. So that means Nolan Arenado and his $35 million per year contract. So hold on, just to break this down a little bit for the contract thing, and then I'll get your take on it. So the Cardinals added an additional year to his contract at the back end for $15 million. So between the $15 million owed to him in 2027 and the $35 million owed to him this upcoming season, that means that the Rockies are essentially paying for 2 out of the total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years of his contract. So really, in actuality, the Cardinals are getting Arenado for 7 years, but on a 5-year deal with an AAV under $35 million a year. I'll do the math and get back to you on what it actually is. But it's fucking disgusting. Corwin, what's your take on this?
I know we always talk about these blockbuster trades, and there's been a handful of them that have come out this year that have not exactly been fair. We talked Blake Snell trade. We talked the Yu Darvish trade, and both of those were, in my mind, fair and major steals, respectively. A small steal and a major steal, respectively, even. This just kind of blows it out of the water. Because at the end of the day, I get that the goal was to shed value or shed money, but at the end of the day, you are still spending an incredibly large sum for a guy who no longer plays for you. And what you got in return is nothing that will have an impact on your team anywhere close to what Nolan Arenado brought, and the money that they are basically shedding from their liability is not going to be used to improve the team in any capacity close to what Nolan Arenado or all of those prospects bring to the table. I saw 2 different reports that both jumped out at me. One was that the Rockies GM, I honestly don't know his name off the top of my head.
Jeff Bridich.
Did not shop this around before making the deal. And teams were livid because they would have paid significantly more in order to get him.
That doesn't make any sense. What?
Supposedly, he is the worst communicator in all of baseball. And
so he's like the opposite of Jerry
Dipoto. Did not announce that he was looking to trade Nolan Arenado.
What the fuck?
And the owner of the Rockies came out and basically said, this is a fuck deal. I can't believe they made it. And we are not at all trying to rebuild the team. And we are still, or at least we're still attempting to, put a competitive team forward.
Hold on. I want to stop you there because I don't believe that for a goddamn second. There is no way on earth this deal happens without ownership approval.
Let's look for it. I saw it on
talk
Twitter
all
earlier.
the time.
I won't find it on Twitter, so I'm going to look through it.
And even if, I'm not trying to say that you're lying or whatever. If the owner said this, he is full of shit. There is no way a face of the franchise moves without ownership approval. And that's even for hands-off owners. There's no way that the Yankees are trading Aaron Judge without getting Hal Steinbrenner's approval. And Hal Steinbrenner doesn't fucking pay attention to what happens with the goddamn Yankees because he's the owner outside of luxury tax shit. He lets Cashman handle the player shit. He just opens up the purse. And that still would have to go by Steinbrenner. There's no team would do that. And if this owner is making it sound like that's what happened, and he doesn't fire Jeff Bridich, then it's exactly what he wanted to happen. Like, oh, wow.
I'm still trying to search for this, but I will find it before we finish up.
While you're doing that, basically this deal ends up being 5 years, $164 million, which is good for $32.8 million per year. Oh, God, but it's actually for 7 years, which is crazy. So actually, if you make this on a 7-year deal, it's $164 million for 7 years, which is $23 million per year. They're getting Nolan Arenado for $3 million per year less than Bryce Harper at a more premium position, and for a man who is a comparable hitter, if not slightly better. I need to pull up Bryce Harper before I slander Bryce Harper. But wow, I mean, that's fucking insane.
So this ESPN article that came out titled "Colorado Rockies owner frustrated by Nolan Arenado trade, but team quote built to compete." Quote, "I am a fan. I truly am. I understand how they feel. To be quite honest, I would probably feel the same way. I do even feel the same way. When we signed Nolan, it was an attempt to keep Nolan for the rest of his career, but things do change." Continues on. "There are levels and variations of the rebuild process, but this certainly is not a total teardown and rebuild like certain teams have chosen to go. I think that if we were to chase that, if that were the case, that certain players would have already been traded." And then talking about how they cherish Trevor as a shortstop. Quote, "It's very difficult to predict what's coming in the months, what the coming months are going to look like. I cannot read today. In terms of deadline, in terms of the season in general, but we do not know what the pandemic and what the virus is going to do and how things will work out. We have an extremely talented team. They are built to compete. It is time for them to take the next step." Then he goes off about how they've built pitching and they've done it internally. And then, as for firing himself or Bridich, Monfort answered, quote, "I have thought about firing myself, but I have not thought about firing Jeff."
What? Oh wow. I'm sorry. MLB has to start stepping in on some of this shit. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. And like how do you look Trevor Story and, Herman Marquez in the face? Charlie Blackmon, he's old. Maybe he'll just hang out. But how do you look those other dudes in the fucking face and say we're trying to compete without Nolan Arenado? First off, I would like to correct myself. Bryce Harper is still a better hitter than Nolan Arenado. I was wondering if he had tapered off much, but no, he's still really fucking good. However, Nolan Arenado has more WAR than Bryce Harper, which is kind of funny because Nolan Arenado is so good at defense. Yep, and his defensive position is more valuable than Harper's. That Arenado, with slightly worse hitting but still very, very good hitting, and one fewer year in the league, still has more WAR than Bryce Harper. That's how valuable he is. A career 120 OPS plus hitter with 4 platinum gloves on top of 8 gold gloves, 4 silver sluggers, and 4 all-star appearances. Now we're not even going to. I don't think it's even worth talking about the St. Louis side of this because they're making out like such bandits. It's like pointless. Obviously, they did very well, and it's not like we talk about the Padres where it's like, where is he going to slide in? We we know it's he's going to play third base. He's going to be really good. He's going to be the starting third baseman. End of conversation. Because what does MLB think that this is signaling to the rest of the league? I
don't have an answer for you. I mean, this is about as anti-competitive as it gets.
Right. Like that's all I can keep looping myself back to on this trade, because if you told me that, because how many fucking articles do we have to slog through about how full teardown rebuilds are bad for baseball and anti-competitive, and you and I defended to certain extents, um, real teardown rebuilds like we saw throughout the NFL, and like the Orioles and Marlins went through in the MLB a few years ago, but they made serious attempts to get value where they could and try to, they were middling teams that tried to get bad as a way of figuring out what they had in their farm system, redeveloping their farm system, trading away pieces for full actual value so much as they could get, and then going forward from there. This is not that. The Orioles, before they tore down, were trying really genuinely to be good. The Rockies absolutely were not. Like, they were bad this past year, finishing fourth in the NL West at 26-34. And last year they finished fourth as well. But they just made the playoffs in 2018, going 91-72, and had a wild card run in 2017 as well. Like those 2 years look like it looked like the Rockies finally found a rotation. It looked like, Nolan Arenado was only going to get better. Trevor Story was only going to get better. Kyle Freeland was up and playing really well. Armand Marquez was doing really well. John Gray was coming back to form. All this shit. And it frustrated fans at the time because they weren't doing anything to address areas of need. They weren't going out and getting another pitcher. They weren't replacing Chris Iannetta. They weren't doing anything with the outfield where Carlos Gonzalez was, there, and Gerardo Parra was fucking it up. They just kind of let that shit slide. And the point of what I'm saying is they at no point actually tried to get better. The Padres look at how good the Dodgers are and see that as a challenge. We are going to beat them, and we're going to do what it takes to get the pieces we need to beat them. The Rockies tried nothing, and it didn't work. And instead of either making a sincere attempt at being good or making a sincere attempt at stripping down, which they certainly have time to do, I guess we'll see what the weeks after this hold for us. But neither of those show any actual strategy. And that's part of this problem. If the Rockies were looking at how good the Padres got and how great the Dodgers still are, and see that maybe this isn't their time in the division, and actually got value back for Arenado, and then went around and tried to make some other trades and deals to acquire, because if they traded Arenado and got back like Matt Carpenter plus a bunch of prospects and didn't shell out half the money that they did, that would be a way different trade, wouldn't it?
Right.
I mean, you get back Matt Carpenter. He's still a good player. You slide him in a third for a while. You take some prospects and you see what they can do. You're not losing out any money, and you're trying to do a sly rebuild. This isn't that. They got back nothing. They got back absolutely nothing that they can use in the immediate. And the reason that the immediate matters is because if they're not going to trade Trevor Story, and they're not going to trade Armand Marquez, and they're not going to trade any of the other guys that they have that have actual value and strip it down to the fucking wood, then they're going to be the Arizona Cardinals or the Arizona Diamondbacks, where they're just stuck. But the Diamondbacks are at least trying to get better and getting stuck in the middle. The Rockies, it's like they're trying to get worse and are stuck in the middle. It's an otherworldly decision. I just can't wrap my head around it.
It's maddening because there's really nothing being done here to improve the team, like you're saying. I get that there are teams with budgetary restrictions that they need to work around, and COVID has reduced the amount of revenue teams are capable of making. But from the perspective of the Colorado Rockies, I don't see how you go and sign a guy to such a long extension and then almost immediately think, oh, shit, I can't afford that. Let's get rid of him for fucking nothing. Because you can't trade him for. It's maddening. It really just is maddening. And I really hate that we're kind of stuck in this situation of accepting that this is what teams want and are capable of doing. And, there's no real repercussions for doing so other than fans getting upset.
So, for reference, the Colorado Rockies owner is estimated as being worth somewhere between $300 and $600 million. The
Which
Padres
is a lot of money, but for a sports owner, not exactly a whole lot.
The Padres owner net worth is $500 million.
Yeah.
These two teams are functioning exceedingly different.
One team is scared to spend money and lose it. The other is willing to invest it to build a winning franchise and increase revenues.
Oh my God! So the Rockies now have the 18th lowest payroll. They're right in between the Minnesota Twins and the Kansas City Royals in terms of their payroll. Oh my God! It's just fucking dumb. It's just, and it's only going to get lower because you have to assume, that Trevor Story is going to be on the chopping block whether they say it or not. Charlie Blackmon's going to want to get out. I mean, he's 35. He's not going to want to sit around on this type of team. He's going to ask for a trade too. Not that they're going to get much back for him anyway, but he's going to want to get gone. Wait, Ian Desmond is still on the team? Oh my God. Jesus Christ. This is a bizarre team. This is such a bizarre team. And I just don't understand.
I don't either. I really don't.
Like the Red Sox trading Mookie Betts in under the guise of payroll flexibility was a meme the second it happened. It was a side-eyed glance of a deal the second it happened and will be referenced forever. This is I'm tempted to say this is worse because even though Betts is a better player than Arenado, we're talking about generational talents versus greats. So it's pretty steep. We're pretty deep in the talent pool here already, but Betts, MVP guy every year. Arenado, top 5 MVP every year. We're talking splitting hairs a little bit here. But God, what they got back. I mean, at least the Red Sox got back a major league starter who played in right field for them the whole season.
And who has an upside that you can build around. Verdugo is, at the end of the day, a top prospect and a guy who can be I don't want to throw out, a special, but he could be a high-end starter for them during his career.
Yeah.
Austin Gomber is probably the best prospect that the Rockies got back, and he's a back end of the rotation kind of pitcher. Yeah.
And the Red Sox, in addition to shedding Betts' payroll, which again, side-eyed glances all around, they got to shed David Price's payroll, who had a decent career up in Boston, but had struggled a little bit and was being paid a lot of money, and the Red Sox decided that they weren't going to be good for a couple of years and moved on from him as well. And there was, if the guys that they were operating under was shedding payroll, they actually did that. If the guys for the Rockies is shedding payroll and they managed to only save $149 million over the course of 6 years, why? It's just not worth it. Because like at some point you're gonna have to pay for fucking talent. At some point, because you know what? These fucking guys, they're not the goddamn Rays. They're not. These guys are idiots. I don't know who works for the Rockies underneath the GM. All of them fucking suck. And I'm blaming all of them for this. Because someone should have fucking grabbed Jeff Bridich by the goddamn ear and yelled in it until he fucking stopped. Because this is lunacy. This isn't just a bad trade. This is fucking lunacy. And just because, I saw Bridich talking about how like Arenado wants out of here anyway. Fuck that. Then do your job. Because this isn't even trading him for spite. You gave him exactly what he wanted, which is great. Like, power to the players here. But like, you got nothing. You did nothing. You didn't do your job. Every team has players who want out at some point or another. Right now, the Houston Texans are going through a very similar situation in which their marquee player wants to leave the team. And you know what the Houston Texans are doing, as it appears anyway? Do fucking diligence. Probably getting quotes from other teams. They're saying they're not going to trade him. All this other shit.
And
Nothing.
Still are trying to find ways to keep him.
Yeah, they're working with him. They fired the coach. They're trying to bring in new people to entice Deshaun Watson to stay. Oh my God, they're not. I mean, and if you are in the front office of the Colorado Rockies, I don't know how you stay. And if you're looking to join baseball, I don't know how on earth you're going to why on earth you'd pick the Colorado Rockies for a front office position. I mean, why would you willingly join the front office of a team that doesn't give a shit about the players that you're spending all of your time scouting, analyzing, deciding the value of, and assigning money to the on the field value? If everybody in the analytics department spoke up and told Jeff Bridich this was a bad idea and that he should go fuck himself, and Jeff Bridich is anyway, why would you stay? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you join? Why? That's why this is bad for baseball.
And if you're a franchise player, or if you're a marquee free agent looking to sign with the Rockies, and they offer you a long-term, expensive deal, you look right back and saying, hey, if they did this to their franchise homegrown player, the face of their franchise, the best player to put on a Rockies uniform, what's stopping them from doing this to me and trading me to some shit franchise in 2 years? It doesn't matter if I signed an 8-year contract. They see all that money on the books, and they're just going to try and get it off immediately. Why? This is only going to hurt them in all facets of the game.
And it's not
good. They're not good enough at drafting to build a team solely through drafting. No MLB team is. There's just no way that this is a good look for them as a team, top to bottom.
T to B.
T to B, baby.
And it's not just free agents. It's also their own guys. Like, how are you going to come up through the Rockies farm system and then buy a house in Denver? How are you going to come up in the Rockies farm system?
Expensive.
I mean, you could if you're making Arenado money, but but I'm like presenting it in a funny way, but I'm being serious. Like, how do you say, to your wife, your girlfriend, your husband, whatever, like, the Rockies traded Arenado after giving him a fat contract where he probably thought he'd spend his whole life here. But I'm different. No. If they're doing this to him, they're going to do it to all of you. There's literally no reason for a Rockies player to buy real estate in Denver again.
Come back and bite him in the ass immediately.
Like, they're gonna. This is like when the Marlins were trading their superstar outfield, and they were getting lopsided returns for various players because they were trying to shed payroll. Like, imagine a world in which Trevor Story gets a better return than Nolan Arenado. If they did, they'd probably be like, well, we're not trying to shed Story's payroll or whatever. But God damn it, is it just going to be such a bad look in every phase of this. It's awful. Sorry, you were saying?
I think I got cut off. I don't remember where I was when you stopped being able to hear me.
Like right at the beginning.
Oh, perfect. I was basically saying how I don't see how. So right at the beginning of which part?
You talking.
Okay. Did I talk about free agents at all?
Yes, I heard all the free agent talk.
Okay. But I mean, looking forward for the next 10 years, I don't see how there's any way for the Rockies to, make this deal and sniff contention. I don't like they'll be lucky to sniff the playoffs, let alone a championship caliber team. 10 years is a long time and a lot of things happen over the course of 10 years. Look at where the Padres were 10 years ago. But I have such little confidence and so much faith in the Rockies ownership and front office to not make correct decisions, both objectively and subjectively, that I'm confident in saying that they're not going to touch um, contention status in the next 10 years.
I think you raise a great point. Arizona has been doing a lot of trading, and I think that they have been building well as a result of it. They have not broken through because that division's insane, but I think they're doing a pretty decent job. The Giants are also been on the come up. Some of their young stars are looking better, and I think they've also been doing a very nice job of getting good value on their trade returns. So those are two long-term issues, potential roadblocks that the Rockies are going to run into. The Dodgers are probably never going to be bad. Because you have to look at them as West Coast Yankees. They have money and a great analytics department, and the Yankees went through leaner years while never finishing below 500. So I'd expect that of the Dodgers as well. And the Padres are going to be trouble for, I don't know, the next 5 to 8 years, depending on how long they can keep young talent controllable, affordable, and on deck. So I don't. Yeah, you're right. I don't know when the hell the Rockies are planning on ever competing because if they were looking to be the next wave of teams post Dodgers and Padres, well, say hello to the fucking Diamondbacks and Giants because they're right there to fucking stop you. They are racing themselves to the bottom. That's all this is.
Mm-hmm.
They are racing. Nobody else in that division is trying to be bad. They are racing themselves to the bottom and will bottom out while everyone else is in an upswing. And you're right. They're not going to sniff the fucking playoffs for 8 to 10 years.
It's ridiculous that, I understand that not all teams can afford to have high value players and have large contracts, but the fact is, Arenado's contract isn't that extravagant and is completely fair for the level of player he is, for the type of player he is. And if a team is going to commit to signing to one of those deals and then all of a sudden gets cold feet and says, no, we can't, like there needs to be repercussions for that, or else the game is going to lose its own respect and value. And God, like baseball struggles enough as is. We talked about it with Keith, last week about, we need to grow the sport and allowing teams to operate in this capacity and with this kind of mindset is not going to do it.
No, oh God. I mean, this is genuinely like I was upset at the Yankees for not being more involved in the two Padres trades that we talked about a few weeks ago because the value seemed so reasonable. And the dollars seem to have been able to fit in what the Yankees felt as though they had to work with. But I also understand that we're operating on margin here, and $11 million might have just been more than they wanted to do. Blah 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 blah. I'm not mad at any of the 28 teams not involved in this trade because this isn't about the competitive balance of this trade. It's about the morality of this trade.
Mm-hmm.
It is just so otherworldly fucked up. God,
I completely agree.
And you know what? It doesn't matter if if fucking Mateo Gil or Elahuris Montero become the next Nolan Arenado. It doesn't, because no one's projecting them to do that now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Process over results.
Right, exactly. This is ridiculous. This is not the same. Jared Kelenic is going to come up in Seattle, and he's going to be a really good player, and Seattle knew that's what they were getting in Jared Kelenic from the Mets when they traded Robinson Cano. If Jared Kelenic doesn't pan out, it's part of the game. If he does pan out, to some degree, that's what you expect, because in baseball, there's no such thing as a sure thing, but they bought a guy that had upside, that was known upside, that was major league potential upside, and people knew that going into this. No one is expecting, from at least what I'm hearing and reading, because as I've said before on the show, I'm not the greatest prospect reader. I'm not hearing that same type of hype around these guys. I'm not hearing that value around these guys.
Yeah, and it's not close. We're not hearing a handful of people saying, "Oh, this is actually a sneaky good deal," or like these guys are going to sneak under the radar, but they're great prospects. Like, we're not hearing anything about them being top tier guys or being guys that'll come back and contribute in the future. We are only ever hearing, "Holy shit, this is ridiculous." And I don't want to say, the media is always right, because we know they're not. We know they're not. And we know these kinds of things can't be predicted well. We know this. But at the end of the day, when 100% of guys who dedicate their lives to watching baseball prospects, and baseball trades, and not a single one of them can look at this and find a silver lining, there's an issue on hand.
I fucking guess we'll see where this goes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of other things that we have to talk about, since we spent the first episode of this month talking with Keith McPherson from John Boy Media and the Pinstripe Strong podcast about the Negro Leagues. I didn't get a chance to talk about any of the news topics. And this upcoming Sunday, also shout out to Keith again. That's episode 216. It's the previous episode. Listen to it, check it out. And this upcoming episode, we'll be having another guest. We'll be joined by Max Greenfield of Pitchers List. We'll be talking about some pitching statistics. It'll be a lot of fun. Chances are we will also likely not be talking too much about other news topics. There's other things that are happening. Tanaka's left the U.S. and has gone back to Japan. And we do have one hockey topic we're going to try to bring up here real quick. But we understand there's a lot going on, which is great. We love having news, but it's been tough getting to all of it recently. But anyway, that being said, Corwin, tell me about what's going on with Marco Rossi.
Yeah, so this was something I initially thought about bringing up before last week's podcast when we had Keith on. That just turned into such a great conversation. Again, thank you, Keith, that we just decided to push it. And basically the big news here is, Marco Rossi was a top 10 pick in the NHL draft this year, was a guy that was projected to go even higher, fell a little bit for, who knows, whatever reasons, hockey's weird like that. But was basically projected to come in and compete for the Wild's number one center position, directly out of camp, his first year in the league, which by all means, everyone thought this kid was going to be a star. He was like 0.01 points per game behind Alex Lafreniere in the AHL, CHL, OHL hockey league last year. Absolute offensive superstar, was a special kind of player, and is now out for the remainder of the season because of complications from COVID that he tested positive for months ago, over the summer. He was cleared to play in the World Juniors, didn't play all that well, looked off, and then went to take his physical for the Wild and failed because of those medical issues. They haven't come forward with the specifics of what he's been suffering from, because again, that's private medical information. They do not need to share that information. But it's just the first, not the first even, because we've seen it with guys like Eduardo Rodriguez, pitcher for the Red Sox. We've seen it with a couple different players, but this is a very young, healthy, promising guy who could have been a Calder contender in the NHL this year, who is suffering after feeling healthy, thinking he was healthy, and really suffering from long-term consequences, and is now unable to even work out or practice in any physical capacity for the next 6-8 weeks while he recovers. And it's going to be something that the biggest reason I wanted to bring this up was, this isn't going to be the last time we hear this. This is going to happen more and more as we're seeing the long-term effects really, crop up, and more players are falling under these circumstances. And it's seriously going to affect all levels of professional sports. And we don't have a solution to it yet. Yes, the vaccine is out. Yes, less and less people are testing positive. Yes, leagues are getting a little more comfortable with their COVID restrictions and what works and what doesn't work. But, we have numerous NHL teams that are all shutting down after successful playoffs because of significant number of players testing positive. I think the Devils have like 20 players on the IR because of COVID, or, on the COVID list. It's going to be a serious issue. And, we're just going to have to sit back and see how this unfolds.
Yeah, we've been hearing stories kind of like this for a little bit. Eduardo Rodriguez missed out on this entire MLB season because he developed a heart condition due to contracting COVID. That just sidelined him for the whole season. And these aren't just people. These are athletes. These are young people in their late teens and late 20s who are in the best shape of their lives, and they're having these types of problems. It really can happen to anybody. And I know it's easy to feel like maybe we're turning a corner a little bit. It's a new year. It's a new administration. Sports are picking back up, but we're still here. We're still in the middle of this. We're worse now than we were in summer, and the sports leagues were playing in bubbles in the summer. So I would like to see the NHL do something for Marco as a sign of good faith. I know that they won't, because it'll probably be seen as an admission of guilt, which will open them up to a lawsuit, and all they care about is money. Because don't you just love how the world revolves around that? But it's a very sobering and shit reminder of the situation we're all universally in, and it's got long-term impacts and implications for this young man's career, which hopefully won't be over before it really starts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything else you want to discuss with hockey?
I don't think so. I mentioned the other day the Rangers are mediocre, and I think we'll end up firing Dan Quinn. But that's all I have to say so far. I miss having Henrik Lundqvist on this team. I feel like he was part of the reason, in addition to Benoit Allaire, why our backup goalies were always so great. And now it's like a goalie battle, but which shouldn't happen between Alexander Georgiev and Igor Shesterkin. But fucking whatever. No, I have nothing else. You?
No, nothing important.
All right. Well, then we'll call it a wrap on today's episode. So again, this Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, as we will be recording, we'll be joined by a guest, Max Greenfield. Check him out on Twitter. He's at GreenfieldMax18. He is a writer for Pitchers List. He's a frequent member on the Breaking Balls podcast. He'll be joining us to talk about pitching stats. So tune in for that. Check it out. It'll be a lot of fun. We're really looking forward to it. And we'll be talking about the Super Bowl, which will be taking place on Sunday in Wednesday's episode. So, or I guess Thursday's episode. Fucking whatever. So we got a lot of fun shit coming up. We hope you guys are having fun alongside with us. And yeah, that's it for this episode. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at JuicingPod. If you want to hit us up via email, you can do so at juicingthenumbers@gmail.com. And until Monday, Jesus, y'all have a good one.
Bye.